friends, welcome back, or welcome if you're new here. My name is Stacy and I am the Chapter Conundrum. And in today's video, I thought it would be fun, since we just did animal companions, to run down my top 10 sentient objects. And in this case, I think my list is basically all fantasy. There are a few sci-fi books I could think of that have a fantastic sentient object, but unfortunately it's very spoilery for that book. So I didn't want to include it on this ranking. Like, there's a few that I can think of right off the bat that have a sentient AI, and you know up front that there's an AI included, but you don't know that it's sentient. So, you know, stuff like that I didn't want to put on this ranking and massively spoil something I love. So yeah, we're just gonna go with all fantasy. But before we get into my ranking, there is one series that I have not yet read that's very popular, that has some amazing sentient objects that I think would make this ranking had I read it. And so I'm just gonna briefly mention that here, but I haven't read the book. And that, of course, is the Live Ships from Robin Hobb's Live Ship Traders trilogy. I know that in the series, if a certain set of criteria are met, that ships can awaken and become live ships. And I have heard that it's really cool to read about, but yeah, just haven't gotten there yet. So this one doesn't make my ranking for that reason. But on to my actual ranking. Coming in at number 10, we have the One Ring from The Lord of the Rings. And while this definitely doesn't have quite the sentience that a lot of the objects you'll find further down this list do, I did find that in this particular story, the ring added a lot of interest because it made the story less predictable for me, which I enjoyed. I definitely was curious about things that happened when people put the ring on, and I just enjoyed the story a lot more for having it in there, and that is why it makes my number 10 spot on the list. Coming in at number 9, we have Tom Riddle's Diary from Chamber of Secrets. And if you have not somehow yet read the series and discovered Tom Riddle's diary, it is a sentient diary where you can write notes and it will write things back to you. And the more you use it, the more it can kind of gain influence over you. It also has the power to show someone memories that it contains. And I thought all of that was pretty unique and cool. And I also love how it plays kind of a bigger picture part of the story of the series as a whole, which obviously I'm not going to get into for spoiler reasons for anyone who hasn't read this. But this was definitely one of my early experiences with a sentient object, and also worth mentioning the sorting hat in this series, definitely in the first one. That's a lot of fun. But that doesn't kind of span the course of the book, whereas Tom Riddle's diary in this one does. And for that reason, it comes in at number 9. In my number 8 ranking, I'm going to have a mild spoiler for a Sarah J. Maas book. So if you are somebody who has not yet read her books, does not want to know anything going in, I will give you a few seconds to skip ahead to the next one using the timestamps. So yeah, I'm assuming if you're still here, you're fine with a mild spoiler. My number 8 goes to the house in A Court of Silver Flames. I think it's really cool that the house in this book does really nice things for Nessa at times because it wants her to be more relaxed and happy. I thought that in this book, the house was kind of very thoughtful, and I just appreciated that it made me smile when it was doing things. To be honest, I kind of wish we had more of it, that it carried kind of throughout the other books in the series, and that somebody else had sort of discovered its secrets sooner. But while this certainly isn't my favorite Court of Thorns and Roses book, I definitely enjoyed the house and just how caring and observant it was. Coming in at number 7, we have another series that has more than one sentient object involved, and that would be both the Grimoires and Thorn Manor in Sorcery of Thorns and Mystery of Thorn Manor. So in Sorcery of Thorns, you follow our main character who is tasked with taking care of some of the Grimoires, and essentially they are magical spell books that, if not cared for properly, can transform and attack, and they are sort of ranked on a 10-point scale, with the higher numbers being more dangerous and more intricate to care for. So just reading about that and kind of reading what happens when things go a little out of hand was very interesting, especially because you're in a magical library. And then also in the novella that follows, you have some people trying to put on an event at Thorn Manor, but the manor has some things to say about it. And while neither of these things really had like a lot of depth or intricacy, I did enjoy what was happening with them while they were doing things, and they definitely improved my reading experience of these books. Coming in at number 6, another series with more than one sentient object. We're going to talk about the Dire or Dire Wall in the Green Rider series, but I'm holding up High King's Tomb, which is book 3, because this is the book where you really get to kind of uncover more about the wall and sort of unpack its secrets. So essentially, this is a magical wall that was built and maintained to contain some dark forces in a magical forest. And I just really enjoyed the experience of reading to find out a lot more of the intricacies about it, how it was kind of under threat, which you find out right away early on in book 1. And I also just liked how the wall was feeling and what the characters were experiencing with the wall. Also in this series, the Green Riders, who are the messengers of the king, have magical brooches, and they have some sentience to them too. Not only do they grant their riders magical abilities, but they tend to kind of choose who a rider will be. They always kind of have a way of finding themselves back to the Green Riders, and definitely have some say in who becomes one. I love the abilities that they're able to grant to the riders too, and just reading about all of that is a lot of fun as well. Also, if you have any interest in this series, Josefine and I over from Fina Reads are going to be buddy reading one book a month in this up to the release of book 8. So we're going to be starting that in March with Green Rider, and book 8 releases September 30th, so it will be our October book. But we'll have channels on the Bookish Drummer Discord if you feel like joining us. We'd love to have you, and we are both excited to reread and get the new book. Coming in at number 5, we have Ashe, or Ashe, I'm not sure on the pronunciation since I read this physically, from Elantris. And essentially, he is a melon-sized ball of light that is bonded with one of our main characters, Serene, or Serene. Again, not sure on the pronunciation, sorry. And he definitely has some useful elements. He can act as a courier, but the main thing that makes him endearing and memorable is that he advises Serene, and definitely he expresses his displeasure when she does things that are reckless, which is just amusing to read. I also enjoyed kind of finding out more about him and how he works and what he is while reading this. So definitely for those reasons, he makes my number 5. Coming in at number 4, we have some magical wedding rings from Shadow's Edge by Brent Weeks. This is the second book in the Night Angel trilogy and the first book in the series where these rings appear. And they actually take the form of earrings in the case of the couple that has them here. But I think it's really cool that they are a bonded pair of items, and they kind of grant the wearers some very interesting abilities, to say the least. I can't really go too much into it because of spoilers, but I definitely thought they were a really unique and cool thing. And in this lore, I thought it was really cool that oftentimes married couples would get something like this. Coming in at number 3, we have Bob from the Dresden Files, and I believe you meet him in Stormfront, which is book 1. And Bob is basically a spirit that inhabits a skull, but kind of the best ways to describe him are like he is a pervy smartass with a lot of banter, but he also is like a repository for magical knowledge. He knows the answers to a lot of things, and so oftentimes Harry will go to him when he has questions about how to do something magical or kind of something in the magical lore of this world. But he's definitely amusing when he's on page, and I definitely love the banter that he has. And also, the further into the series you read, the more you kind of find out about him and his history, and all of that is very fun and entertaining. And I was kind of sad when he was included less and less in some of the newer books in the series. So I definitely have some fond memories of reading the early Dresden books because of Bob and the jokes and banter that he provides, and definitely feel comfortable ranking him number 3. Coming in at number 2, we have Nightblood, a magical sword from Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson. And essentially Nightblood is an object that is created to destroy evil. But of course that's not really black and white. So some of the things he attempts to do get very interesting. So Nightblood doesn't quite have human thought processes, but he is able to learn things, change, and grow. And I think that's part of why reading about him makes him so interesting and why I enjoyed the experience so much. I also thought it was cool that he was able to communicate with more than one person at a time, And I also just got a lot of added entertainment value in the story because of him. So definitely would recommend this book if you enjoy Sentient Objects and you haven't read it yet. And then coming in at number 1, we have Clef from Foundry Side, who is a magical key, and he kind of does have more human thought capabilities. He is very entertaining to read. The banter that he provides with our main character Sancha is top-notch, fantastic. He had me laughing out loud, and definitely he is a highlight of the book and the series for me. In the world of Foundry Side, you have a very interesting magic system called scribing, and essentially scribing is where logical rules are kind of chiseled into things and written down, and all of a sudden scribed objects kind of have to follow the rules that you've scribed for them. So they may defy other logic or physics based on what they're told to do, but Clef is somehow different. And as a magical key, the one thing he does very well is to convince scribed locks to open for him by talking them kind of around the logic that they are designed to follow. So I'm sure, as you can infer from that, he's very handy to have around. Not only is he one of the most intricate sentient objects I've read about, but I also just really loved the mysteries surrounding him and getting answers about him in this series. So if sentient objects are your jam, you definitely do not want to miss Foundry Side. Let me know down below in the comments, what are some of your other favorite sentient objects? Are there any that haven't made my list here that you love? Maybe they're in books that I haven't read yet that I need to go check out. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe on your way out if you want to, and have a great day. Bye!